Hello everyone, my name is Helenique Argeru and I'm a clinical psychologist and a peak performance trainer. I'm very excited again to be with you because I have been learning some very amazing facts about bonding and about attachment. And I will be sharing some of this wonderful information with you, which is actually quite liberating and also very empowering. So let's begin with some basic facts. In clinical psychology many years ago, I was introduced to the theory of attachment. You might already know something about this. It's quite a popular cornerstone of psychological relationship theory, really. And it's the reason why therapy tends to spend a lot of time in the past looking at the mother and father influencing the child. The person in therapy, for example, if you were in session, you would be looking at your relationship with your mother as your primary caregiver and the attachment that you had with her, which pretty much defines your sense of security in the world, in relationships, and in your relationship with the world itself. It also sets up a kind of priming or a kind of example for the safety that you feel in your life when you express your needs, and also defines something of the relationship you're going to have with yourself even. So you can imagine this to be quite an important aspect of self-development work. So what's nice about this video that I'm going to be sharing with you today is the new information that puts a lot of attachment theory into adult dating, relationship, debate and discussion about how this bonding that happened with our mothers when we were very young actually defines the way that we go about building relationships later in life, and of course how to actually do something about that as an adult. So that's what's very exciting about this work. And there are actually some great resources that you can go and visit if you want to know more about this. So first you can go and look into the traditional theory by Winnicott. It's called Object Relations Theory. It talks about how we relate to the primary object, or how we relate to our mothers when we are very young, babies. And then we also have a new man on the scene, Dr. Amir Levine is his name, and he's written a really interesting book called Attached, with another author. And this book talks about adult attachment. So it pretty much explains how attachment theory in the traditional sense relates to adults. And he's a psychiatrist and a neuroscientist who has then gone quite deeply into the way that we can actually change or transform our attachment style. This is really good news for us because if I was to explain the basic theory to you, you would see that you are probably one of three types of attachment styles. And the best one to be, and you're very lucky if you do have this, is securely attached. Apparently about 64% of people in the world are securely attached. This means that you feel quite secure in relationships, that you can trust other people in the relationship to hear what you need, to be okay with your requirements or your desires that you have from them. The way that you want the relationship to go is normally quite relaxed and comfortable, and you are therefore securely attached. And this comes from the primary relationship you've had with your mother, and then of course kind of sets up some kind of map for how you would carry on relating to other people in the future. Now, some people do not end up having this kind of sometimes symbiotic relationship, we call it, with our mothers. It's this a way of being in a harmonious dance with your mother as a baby, as an infant. And if they don't have that experience, they might end up being what we call insecurely attached. And there's two types. In traditional psychology, they talk about ambivalent attachment and avoidant attachment as two types of insecure attachment, meaning that sometimes somebody can be quite unsure about whether they want to be in a relationship or whether they would rather be out of the relationship. But they clearly have needs from the relationship, but they feel a kind of uncertainty and ambiguity, hence the word ambivalent, about expressing those needs. And so there's kind of a tension in them, and it's quite difficult for them to feel safe in the relationship. And so this can become quite a struggle and quite a conflict in adult life and in adult relationships. There's the other version, which is avoidant attachment, another kind of insecure attachment, which is really somebody who's also ambivalent in some sense, but they tend to stay away or put some distance between themselves and the other person. According to Dr. Levine, The adult attachment version is slightly different, and this is where I got excited about sharing this with you today. So if you are securely attached, the story remains the same according to Dr. Levine. But if you see yourself as someone who hasn't had a very bonded relationship with your mother, or you perhaps have some difficulties or issues from that relationship that remain unresolved, you might be still insecurely attached in that relationship, and then this might be one of the things you can look at in your adult relationships. So when Dr. Levine talks about the subject, he starts to talk about avoidant, pretty much like I've explained it already, but then he talks about anxiously attached. So let's look at the differences. In adult life, apparently there are about 25% of people who are avoidantly attached. And so if you're a woman, this might be the man who looks like he doesn't want to commit. This might be the man who is unavailable. Might be someone who's very involved in his work. Might be someone who is very enthusiastic in the beginning, but kind of ends up traveling a lot, maybe on business, and doesn't necessarily want to stay in communication. This would be a very good example of someone who is doing an avoidance style of attachment in adult life in the relationship. Then you get the anxiously attached types, who are people who have, very interestingly enough, a very acute sense of perception, and they're very sensitive to any change in the relationship and don't often trust easily the relationship. So this is paralleled a little bit with single women who might be quite late in finding partners in life. They might be of the anxious type. They might go through avoidant phases as well, and they might be anxiously looking for reason to also bail in the relationship, or to not trust the relationship, or just genuinely don't feel safe in the relationship because of small things that trigger a sense of feeling insecure. So whichever one you are, and of course, just because I mentioned the avoidant type as the male example doesn't mean that there aren't women who are avoidant, and of course there aren't only women who are anxiously attached. There are also men who will show up as anxiously attached, and women who can be avoidant. So whichever one type you are, I will give you a quick website to visit to confirm it. You can actually go to Dr. Levine's website, which is called attachedthebook.com, and there you can have access to the quiz, which asks about 18 questions which will define your attachment style for you. Once you know what your type is, this is a good place to begin, because now you can actually be informed and empowered about really your attachment style. And it's quite a good idea to become very respectful of the part of you as a young child that didn't get certain needs met, or who felt insecure in relationships in your coming into the world, and therefore the respect you really need from yourself is one way to begin to address your deeper needs in adult relationships. So once you know your attachment style, you will begin to know a little bit more about why you might find yourself reacting the way you do in adult relationships. So as an anxious type, some examples of what you might find yourself doing is not trusting that after a fight the relationship can actually survive. It's feeling that you should not express too much of who you are. You shouldn't tell your partner about your needs, or you shouldn't be too honest about them, because they probably won't like you when they find out. And this is all indicating a kind of anxiety about being in the relationship and not trusting that the relationship is strong and connected and really helpful to you. Then the avoidant type behaviors are slightly different. This is finding reasons for remaining inconsistent in the relationship. So if you are showing this kind of behavior, you probably are avoidantly attached from childhood, meaning that you don't want to really have somebody else to take care of, and you want to be independent rather, and you have very specific beliefs around how your self-sustainability is more important than taking care of someone else, and all kinds of justifications about why you need to remain independent. So the real important fact about all of this is that really there is a way in life to find secure, bonded love if you are an avoidantly attached person or if you are anxiously attached. And one thing you can begin to do is to recognize that people that are securely attached are like the supermates of evolution, says Dr. Levine. The people that are around that are like type OA blood type who really work with everybody. And securely attached people are really quite golden individuals and partners that really can help people who are anxiously or avoidantly attached to move past their insecurity in relationships. Of course, it takes work and real patience, and it needs a deep level of love and respect for each person in the relationship to know something about the insecure attachment style of the person who's in the relationship. But it's really the best one to be looking for is a relationship with someone who is securely attached. If you are finding out that you are avoidantly attached or anxiously attached. If you don't find someone who is securely attached, you might end up in what we are seeing very commonly in the dating world as a kind of avoidant or anxious type drama dynamic between you and someone else who is another type of the insecurely attached type. So this is when, for example, you might find certain moments in the relationship where the partner is actually being quite unwilling to actually negotiate sharing themselves in the relationship in a fair way, like an avoidantly attached person with an anxiously attached person would then create some very deep concern, anxiety, and instability in the anxiously attached person. So this sets up some kind of dynamic where there is often some kind of misunderstanding about the unavailability of the person who's avoidant and the fear or the insecurity of the anxiety-based type person who is actually confused about the unavailability of the avoidant person and tries to hang in there because there is some kind of bond going on, but they keep feeling invalidated, like they're not worthy or they're not doing enough in the relationship, and they have this kind of anxiety running, and at the same time it's continually increasing because of the avoidant style of the other person. So you can see then that an avoidant and an anxious type person together make quite a difficult combination, and it's where a lot of drama can unfold and a lot of pain, and in fact some very stuck relationship dynamic where it's very difficult for either one of these people to actually leave the relationship and create something more healthy. So it can become quite toxic, and it's really not very much recommended. And so when you are a single woman, or if you are out of a relationship, divorced, and you are looking to partner up with someone, and you are dating, or you're interested to attract somebody, you want to be very aware which type you are. So go to the site. It's called attachedthebook.com, and there you'll find access to the quiz, find out your type of attachment style, learn more about how you can track the things that you end up doing in relationships. And then you might even want to buy Dr. Levine's book called Attached and read more about all the golden rules of dating and all the good news about how you can actually change your attachment style by hanging out or building relationships with people who are securely attached. So once you know that, and if you are looking for a partner and you want to prevent yourself from getting into this avoidant, anxious type dynamic, which can be very dramatic and problematic and toxic, as I was explaining, then you want to start looking for some indicators or red flags or smoke signals when you are meeting people or dating, or when you are even online getting to know people there, or if you are introduced to somebody and you begin to explore the relationship. So a few things you need to be noticing is the background of the person, like what is their relationship history about. If you see somebody has been in a relationship for a very long time, you also can't generally assume that they are not avoidant or anxious types, because it could be that the relationship was not very healthy and they just hung in there. So you need to know a little bit more about the relationship. So try and find an appropriate way to get some of this information, and start to throw out certain signals or certain requests in a gentle and casual way to begin to see how the other person deals with your needs. This is, in fact, one of the most important parts of building relationship, is to make sure that you are building a relationship with someone that can, first of all, hear your needs, that doesn't get afraid about your emotional inner world and how you choose to share it with them. Someone that can actually see you being vulnerable and can help you express yourself and feel safe in being vulnerable. And so when you start to explain just a little bit of what you need in the beginning, without it being too intimate and too vulnerable in the beginning of the relationship, obviously, you'll get a sense of how this person is responding. And then you want to watch that a little over time and begin to get a sense of how your chosen partner for that time is actually responding to your needs. So another thing you need to look at is your own way of communicating in the relationship. So according to your attachment style, there's certain things that you are intending to, or unconsciously hoping to resolve in a relationship with someone. And every single time, pheromones will play an important part in that. And it's important to realize that you are looking at attraction as a new kind of place to become curious and careful. Because if you are attracted to somebody physically and sexually, there is a very specific hormone of what we like a kind of pheromone hormone that is being secreted. And if there is intimacy happening on a physical level, or even sometimes emotionally, if you're having physical contact with the person, if you're kissing, if you're having sex with each other, you are also secreting oxytocin hormone. And when that happens, there's a certain kind of trust that you feel emotionally. And this can be a blinding factor. So when the pheromones are hitting, and when you have the sexual attraction and emotional attraction and physical attraction to somebody, it's something you want to become a little bit more aware of. Not to be wary of it or to be doubtful of it, but to know that it's not necessarily an indication of just passionate chemistry that's going to take you the whole way through a relationship. That in fact, that's the hormone that is going to make it a little bit more difficult for you to see the red flags and the smoke signals. So when you're dating somebody and you're looking at setting up some kind of relationship with someone, you want to notice the attraction, keep it in mind, enjoy the attraction, but also be a little bit careful in the way that you are receiving the communication of the person around the needs that you are expressing. So that's the part you want to be checking, is how does this person respond to what you say you need from the relationship. And of course, all within reason. You're not putting out all kinds of demands and being unreasonable and very extravagant about these things. Really looking at what is it that you want from a relationship and putting that out to your partner in good communication. And one more thing you can be doing is to actually remember that as you go on this journey and as you discover more about yourself and your attachment style, that this is really something that you can develop and secure if you are insecurely attached. And if you are a securely attached person, you're making a great contribution to the evolution of our species by hanging out and developing relationships with people that are not as securely attached as you. And so there's a deep understanding that can grow, and a deep meaningful teaching that you can actually give to someone that is not as securely attached as you. Avoidantly attached people don't tend to attract each other, so that's not statistically relevant that avoidant people will attract avoidant people. But the one to try and be guarding yourself from is attracting someone who's avoidant if you are an anxious type, and or attracting someone who's an anxious type if you are an avoidant type. So you want to rather be looking for the securely attached types, and these are people that make the relationship feel easy. They're people that will ask for a second date very soon. They're people that will give you a certain kind of reassurance in the relationship. People that actually are comfortable to hear what you need and are not freaked out or fazed by what you are requiring from them, and they actually give you a sense of security in the overall relationship. So now that you've heard me speaking about all these different types, you might already have a sense of what type you are. And if that's the case, I still recommend you go and confirm it, and then start looking at the people you're interested in, and notice when you are feeling a little bit unsure that this person is able to take on the relationship, or whether you feel this person is almost too reactive. That will give you an indication of the anxious or avoidant type, and that means it's better to pass that on, pass that person up, literally, and keep looking for someone who is more securely attached. Thank you very much for listening, and if you want to know more about these videos, you can always sign up to www.ahaintelligence.com. There's a sign up form there for you where you can get more of these videos on the Art of Love series. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.